I think it's a defect in any legal system to provide precedents for a particular group of people. The law needs to be applied equally in order for it to be fair. We have similar issues cropping up here in the UK, in particular with relation to equality legislation in religious groups and with state funding of faith schools. Religion is seen as some kind of special case, something we have to make allowances for. At the root of this, I see what Richard Dawkins refers to as belief in belief, this cultural mantra that we must respect other people's beliefs if we're to consider ourselves tolerant and civilised. Well, I reject that idea. I don't believe that I have to respect someone else's beliefs if I find them offensive or ridiculous. I don't have to respect anyone for holding those beliefs or for having their faith. The only obligation that I feel I have is to respect their right to that belief and not to oppress them for holding it. But why do we give religious belief this extra mile that we wouldn't give to any other kind of belief, such as, say, political belief or, say, belief in racial supremacy? There's no evidence for any one religion's claims of superiority over the others. It's obvious that not every one of them can be right. It's probable that none of them are. So why would we grant any one religion precedence over any other? That would be unfair and unjustified. But if we're not granting precedence to any one religion over all the others, then why grant religious belief itself precedence at all? The only reason I can see that we do this, that we make allowances for religion, is tradition. And that's a bad reason to try and justify anything. We've always done it this way isn't a valid argument to continue doing something. In any case, it's usually a misrepresentation. Any claims of divine inspiration as justification for religious-based laws are immediately followed by cherry-picking exercises or claims of historical context. So you follow all the laws in your scripture apart from the ones that you don't. The laws provided by your God are examples of timeless, objective morality, apart from those rendered obsolete by historical context. Granting religion special consideration is, in effect, saying that some people are entitled to be exempt from the rules that govern everyone else, just because they don't feel like being subjected to them, that they can be free to ignore and override other people's rights simply because they don't like them. Well, I call bullshit on that. I call bullshit on my taxes funding faith schools that teach children being gay is wrong, and that my relationship is not only just not as valid as a heterosexual union, but is evil and perverted. I call bullshit on my taxes subsidising adoption organisations that believe a child is better off in an institution, probably being raped by priests and brutalised by nuns, than in a loving home. I call bullshit on people being able to exercise bigotry in a way that would be illegal if they weren't claiming that complying with the law would break some magic spell. Let me use faith schools as an example. In this country, our politicians generally seem to be in favour of faith schools. I can only assume this is for cynically political rather than ideological reasons. Schools in which children can be taught all kinds of rubbish and have important information withheld from them because this information conflicts with superstitious beliefs. But what would happen if the BNP or some similar organisation wanted to set up a school for white children, for ethnic British children? Ethnic British being, of course, whatever the fuck they wanted it to be, because this is belief we're talking about here. It doesn't need any evidence to justify it other than someone's ill-informed opinion and personal wants. A school to teach them denial of the Holocaust and supremacy of white-skinned people. The government wouldn't even allow such a school to be set up, never mind agree to fund it. But a Catholic state-funded school can refuse to teach about contraception. A state-maintained Jewish school can refuse a pupil for not being Jewish enough. The law seems to be prepared to bend over backwards to accommodate prejudice and superstition whenever religion is cited to justify behaviour that would be condemned under any other circumstances. I say that the precedence given to religion is irrational and unjust, that it allows bigotry to thrive by effectively endorsing the underlying bigoted tenets as having merit. So, in answer to the question, is it appropriate or even useful for religion to have privileged status, I say this. In a fair, just and equal society, a person's right to be treated fairly, justly and equally must never take a back seat to superstition and bigotry. I say that bad, unjust laws should be abolished and applied to no one. and that good, fair laws should apply equally to everyone. To grant certain people exemption grants them privilege over their fellow citizens. It makes them a special case. And that's what's really going on here. When you hear any religious group complaining about new laws that restrict their religious freedom, it's normally their privileged position that they're concerned about. The only freedom they're interested in is their freedom to exercise their bigotry and hatred at the expense of other people. By granting them this exemption, you are in effect taking away another person's protection under the law. So I'm going to rephrase the question in a way that I think makes it easier to answer. Is it okay to deny some people the protection of the law so that other groups have the privilege of exercising their bigotry? I think that's so easy to answer that I don't even have to say anything more.